Well, here we are, but days away from the November 5th election, and the Kamala Harris campaign is getting very vile. In fact, they're out there spewing lies about how Donald Trump is this freaking fascist, tyrannical dictator, and how he's going to start jailing all of his opposition, which is just a complete and utter lie. In fact, exactly what she is saying is exactly what the Democrats are literally doing right now, and Donald Trump is trying to stop. In fact, in this clip that you're about to see, Joe Biden accidentally slipped and said the quiet part out loud regarding Donald J. Trump. Take a listen.
The same guy with 3 other major cases waiting for him when he loses. And by the way, 34 felonies. So far, he hadn't got sentenced. He got the sentence kicked back, but I want to watch that sentence. Look, Donald Trump's not running for you. He's running for himself. I think he's running to stay out of jail.
So Joe Biden just made it very clear that he wants Donald Trump in jail. In fact, when he said Donald Trump got the sentence kicked back and I'm going to be watching that sentence, that implies that Joe Biden is working with his Department of Justice to jail Donald J. Trump. You know, Donald J. Trump's just running to stay out of jail, according to Joe Biden, which is funny because he was running before any of that crap even happened. In fact, he was our president already, in case you forgot. Joe Biden, he is a little mental, and you can barely understand what he said in that clip. That's why I had to put some words on the bottom there. But they basically admit that they're going after their political opposition and they want them in jail. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is out there opening up her dingy, flippy mouth, saying that this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing to his political opposition, which is a complete lie.
He's talking about the enemy within our country, Pennsylvania. He's talking about that he considers anyone who doesn't support him or who will not bend to his will an enemy of our country. It's a serious issue. He is saying that he would use the military to go after them. Think about this.
Think about what she's saying there. She's literally telling this entire crowd in Pennsylvania that Donald Trump is, well, he's against any and everyone who doesn't worship him. And in fact, she said, which is not true, by the way, that Donald Trump is going to, and I quote, use the military to go after the people that don't worship him. That is literally what she just said. The crazy part is what she said in the beginning. She's referencing how Donald Trump, which he hasn't, but she's saying that Donald Trump has created this enemy from within. Well, the reality is, as you're going to see in just a moment with this new directive that was given to the DOJ, this is exactly what the Biden-Harris administration has just done with their new directive. And I'm going to get into details on that to just a moment. But I want to show you something that she said a while back on how she's going to use the DOJ, basically like they have been, weaponized. Take a listen.
And we'll put the Department of Justice of the United States back in the business of justice. We will double the Civil Rights Division and direct law enforcement to counter this extremism. We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, if you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
Those are pretty strong words, but what she's basically saying there, either her or some entity in her administration will decide what is appropriate speech and what is not appropriate speech. And these, quite frankly, are the musings of a very dangerous authoritarian person, right? I mean, she's talking about threats to democracy and the DOJ going after those threats to democracy, or the Justice Department, right? And who does she often spout her mouth out about who is a threat to democracy? Donald J. Trump and his MAGA supporters. But yet, she's out there, as you saw in this clip just a moment ago, she's out there telling the people of Pennsylvania that Donald Trump wants to put them in jail because they don't worship Donald Trump. But yet this is kind of similar to what she's saying here regarding the Department of Justice and using them to police social media as well, because God forbid you say something against the regime. And meanwhile, we've got Joe Biden talking about jailing Donald J. Trump. Now, here's the most terrifying part. And by the way, you need to get over to restrictedrepublic.com. What I'm about to tell you right now, I touch in a lot more detail in this report. Military can now use lethal force on citizens. This was published, by the way, on October 9th. And it's just now getting headlines on October 16th. So I was way ahead of the game. But get to restrictedrepublic.com, sign up today, use the coupon code Lisa and the number 5, get it for $5 per month. Make sure you use that code. You can cancel whenever you want. But I get into more detail there, right? But let's get into a little bit of this directive here, right? And like I said, I'm limited. But here is the directive, and this is a directive, and I'm going to throw it up on the screen so you could see it as I discussed it. But the U.S. Department of Defense has authorized our United States military defense intelligence components to use lethal force against American citizens if it is requested by state or local law enforcement in an emergency situation. This was not applicable before. And notice the date on this, September 27th, 2024. Again, I touched on this back on October 9th. But now, as of September 27th, 2024, just before our United States election, suddenly now they can use lethal force against their citizens. And here's where it actually says that. And I want to take you to page 13 so you can reference this with me. You have the notes there, but it says, the Secretary of Defense approval, right? The Secretary of Defense may approve any type of request permissible assistance described in paragraph 3.2. And here is the paragraphs that it's describing. So you can't do this without first the Secretary of Defense approval. But once you get the approval, right, you can assist in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use or force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. It also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civil law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. So they can use lethal force against citizens in America with the approval of the Secretary of Defense and if the state and local law enforcement need it. Well, why would they want to do that? Well, there's been all kinds of talk, right, about the election going south. No matter who gets in, at least that's been the consensus. CNN, which is very unfortunate because I'm against all violence, by the way. 2024 election-related violence among security threats facing the United States, according to Department of Homeland Security. So, are they preparing for a crap hitting the fan right after the election? God forbid Donald J. Trump win, right? That's going to piss off a lot of people on the left. And I don't see our side doing the same, but I pray to God that doesn't happen either way. But either way, if you want more in depth on that, you need to get to restrictedrepublic.com and check out that article. You guys are not going to want to miss it. But bottom line, the Democrats are out there spouting. They're playing their hands, right? They're saying that Donald Trump's going to do all this stuff, yet they're passing directives that are basically saying what they're saying that Trump is doing is what they're actually doing. No, they haven't arrested anyone, at least at this time. You know what my biggest fear is, by the way, is after the election, God forbid Kamala Harris wins, right? Hypothetically. Now, I'm not predicting this. This is not what I'm saying is going to happen. This is my fear. I could just simply say that. Go to Restrict Republic. But anyway, my fear is that if Kamala Harris wins the election, that's a big fear in and of itself. That suddenly her Department of Justice using this directive and local law enforcement or whatever it is, however it plays out, is that they'll suddenly go, there's people on the right and they're wanting to start a civil war and we got to go arrest them all. Even though people are not really doing that. I would never, ever, and I'm not suicidal, by the way, just to put the point out there, I love myself, I love life. Again, this is a fear of mine, a legit fear. And that's really it. But it's scary to the very core that they can even contemplate something like that. But when they have such power and control over these 3-letter agencies, that is what chills me to the very core. The other thing is they could use the IRS to start targeting conservatives like they have in the past and like they've already apologized for when they were going after more conservative groups like the Tea Party. But either way, God forbid. And then there's those on the left and saying, well, if Trump does that, he could do the very same thing. He would have done that the first time he was in office. He'd never done it before. He's not going to do it, right? And if he did, I would completely disown Donald J. Trump. I don't think anybody should be round up and put, and he's not going to. That's the messed up part. He honestly believes in fixing the United States of America and our country. It is their side that is lip singing and passing this fake news about Donald J. Trump because they don't want the votes going to him. They don't want the people to support him. So they have to fake it and sell people based off of fear. They're voting for Kamala Harris based off of fear of Donald J. Trump, and that should not be what it's about. And this is just one of the most insane elections I have ever seen. Anyhow, get to Restricted Republic. Coupon code is below. I love you guys. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.